Hi folks, this is your MWIS Fleeting View in association with Petzl. The outlook this week starts off with a very similar theme to what we've had in recent times, in which much terrain is frozen, albeit a few western coastal mountains will be just above freezing point, even to some higher slopes. There'll be some frost inland where skies are clear overnight. And that story will continue through Monday and Tuesday as well, with terrain staying broadly frozen and the terrain itself staying essentially frozen onwards into Wednesday. But by this point, a lift of freezing level, a lift of temperature coming up from the south, we'll see air temperatures broadly above freezing point to higher slopes, increasingly widely as the day goes on. And a thaw is then beginning, and that will be the story of the rest of the week through Thursday, Friday into the weekend, with temperatures generally above freezing point to higher slopes and an ongoing thaw of the terrain. Just occasionally in Scotland the freezing level may dip back down to around 1200 metres, perhaps briefly lower, but overall I think most of the time it'll be just above freezing, even to the highest tops in Scotland by the end of this week. And next weekend that similar sort of mix, with just the highest tops occasionally nudging back to freezing point. Otherwise it is going to be a sustained period of above freezing temperatures and thawing conditions on the ground. A chance that as we go into the start of next week we may just see some lowering of the temperature, at least across Scotland. As far as snow on the ground is concerned, well, what you've got at the moment is what you'll stick with pretty much for a few days. There'll be a few flurries in places, giving a centimetre or so across some mountains, south and southwestern parts of the Highlands, perhaps more prone to that, and the possibility around Tuesday of just something a bit more widely of a covering of fresh snow, maybe several centimetres on a few southern mountains in the Highlands, a dusting possible even on some tops in England. For Wales, perhaps temperatures just a shade too high for most places, if anything, to accumulate. That snow across the Highlands, though, will start to diminish though as we head into the later part of the week, as those temperatures do lift, so this snow cover map starts to look increasingly sparse. Some pockets, though, may just remain where the snow is hardened and consolidated across higher tops, but much of the superficial covering of snow will thaw later this week. Early on this week we're still feeling a southeasterly wind across the country, strong and gusty in places, particularly near to more western coastal mountains. Fairly cloudy conditions, although some drier air is in the mix on Monday, so areas of sunshine will break through, perhaps pretty widely, and snow flurries will be generally quite sparse. There's some further fronts gathering over Ireland, and that will start to push further northwards by Monday evening, and that giving the risk then of some snow a bit more widely for a time through overnight into Tuesday across the Highlands as we go forwards here in 3-hour time steps, so 3-hour precipitation. And that's a more extensive zone of snow across the mountains, sleet and some freezing rain, maybe on some lower slopes, particularly near to western coastal areas, and some snow flurries across northern England as well, drier further south across England and Wales. That snow across the Highlands, fairly persistent then, southernmost regions in the Highlands seeing most of that through Tuesday morning, fading out further as Tuesday daytime goes on. A degree of uncertainty of the extent of residual snow flurries, but a story of becoming drier. We stick with that gusty and cold southeasterly wind throughout this time. The next front approaching from the southwest will bring the scope for some rain, again perhaps preceded by some freezing rain and some snow flurries as it runs into the cold air further north, particularly over northern England and Scotland on Wednesday. But as the airflow just turns a bit more south-southwesterly, there we start to introduce milder Atlantic air through the middle of the week, and temperatures then rising with further areas of precipitation increasingly turning to rain up to higher slopes. Still often windy, these southerly winds will be up to gale force for periods, particularly over higher slopes, so even though temperatures may rise, the wind chill factor will still feel significantly below freezing. Spells of rain and low cloud very much in the forecast, unfortunately, in the later part of the week, so a rather unsettled trend with those weather systems coming in off the Atlantic. Brief windows of something drier, often a lot of low cloud across western mountains, best of breaks further north and northeast, but that generally unsettled trend taking us towards the weekend. Hard to judge absolute timing this far out, but just maybe looking at next weekend, the better of the 2 days, possibly Saturday, although both days are looking rather unsettled with southwesterlies around. A deeper area of low pressure, though, threatening to move in by later Saturday sees a deterioration to more extensive rain and upland gales as well. So just watch your timing and detail heading for next weekend. It does look rather unsettled. The possibility of just going into a chillier westerly flow with the air coming around from Greenland once we go into the early days of next week could just bring us down with temperatures and some showers with some snow and some hail possibly in the forecast. The general Atlantic weather regime, though, looks to be in for a few days onwards into next week. So switching back more to a westerly airflow perhaps for a run of days, with a mix of showers and some sunnier spells. The showers, though, more likely perhaps over the mountains to turn back to something wintry. As always, all your details for 3 days ahead can be found every day on our website. That is your Fleeting View in association with Petzl.